Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Genesis Community Livecast. This is our Genesis Shapers recap episode for March 2021 Shapers meeting titled Core Web Vitals, Compiling and Customizing Genesis Blocks. For those that don't know me, I'm David Vogelpohl. I've been a proud member of the Genesis community for over 8 years now. I think I probably need to change that to 9 soon. I need to check the exact date. But I lead Genesis at WP Engine, and I love helping the Genesis community get better together with my friends from the Shapers. And joining me for this recap episode, actually I have 2 Shapers to help me run through what we talked about during the meeting. First, I'd like to welcome to the Genesis Community Livecast, Mr. Remkus de Vries of Servebolt. Remkus, welcome to Genesis Community Livecast.
Thank you, David. Nice to be here.
Good. Did I get your last name pronunciation okay? It was a little
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good.
We're good. Okay, good. Yeah, with a last name like Vogelpohl, I really strive to get those last name pronunciations right. But also joining us here, back for the Genesis Community Livecast, I'd like to welcome back Carrie Dils of carriedils.com.
Hey guys, and I'm here to represent easy last names.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, there's got to be balance somewhere.
Easy is like a relative thing, though, based on like your language and experience. So I feel like your last name is incredibly difficult for a lot of people in the world, Carrie. I'm just throwing this out here.
We'll just go, how about short last names?
Okay.
You're good,
I like
you're good.
it.
Yeah.
You'll rep the short last names. I love it. All right, cool. Well, enough with the intro. Let's jump right into the meeting. Our meeting took place on March 9th via Slack, like they always do. And the very first question we ask of every meeting, of course, is let's get a show of hands for those that were able to make it today. Although I did clarify after many folks using more than hand emoji that they could also use whatever emoji floats their boat to say that they were able to make it there. And Mike Hemberger of My Theme, he replied with the boat. So that was very like on the nose. And then Remkus and Carrie, y'all were also there, right?
I was. I didn't actually wave. I recall now.
Oh, well, then you're not officially there, Remkus.
Yeah. Well, I did comment. I was there. Just I didn't wave. I was being rude, I guess.
But a comment's not an emoji, so I think it doesn't officially count. Is where I think this is landing. But no, I think your comment's fine, Remkus.
All right, it's fixed. It's fixed already. I just fixed it.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, you both didn't actually respond? Oh my goodness. This is funny. Yeah, but you both have hand waves. Love that. Ryan Murray of 3200 Creative, he does the kind of John Travolta dancing emoji. That was his of choice. Ryan Kenstra of Genesis Custom Blocks waving. I'm not going to read all the emojis here. Bill Erickson was able to make it. Lee Anthony, Nawai Badola of Awesome Press. Sally Getch, you may know her as WP Fangirl. Anita Carter of the Creative Diva. And there were others that joined later, I guess, that didn't raise their hand. Rob Stinson of Genesis Custom Blocks. Jonathan Jeter of Click Here Labs. We'll spot others as we go through the agenda. But the first question, this one was a bit of a softball, but we asked the Shapers if they saw Anita Carter, Carrie Dils, and Rob Stinson present during WP Engine's virtual developer event, DECODE, and then asked them if they would join me in celebrating the awesome job they did talking about Genesis, full site editing, and analytics strategies. Carrie, did you see yourself talk at DECODE?
I muted myself and was just participating in the Slack channel. It's always really awkward to listen to playbacks of myself.
That's one of the things I loved about that event, and just like virtual events in general, where you record the session and then broadcast it live, because you can actually ask the speakers questions live during their session. And I thought that was a really cool part of the event. Remkus, you said you weren't able to see the live sessions.
I didn't catch it, no.
Okay, for those that weren't able to catch it live, if you just Google WP Engine DECODE, you can actually catch the recordings. They're all free. Anita Carter talked about analytics strategies. Carrie talked about full site editing. Carrie, I'm going to tell you a secret, which probably isn't a secret if I tell it on something like a live cast. Yours was the most popular breakout session, the one you and Rob did. So people really love learning about full site editing and the role of Genesis in that. So that was really cool. Again, oh, go ahead.
I'm not surprised there.
I know, right? That's what we get for sliding superstars like Carrie into the lineup. It's just really kind of taking over the viewership there. Just kidding. We actually had a lot of
I,
really popular sessions, but go
I
ahead,
was going
Carrie.
to say, I think it's the topic that was the big winner, not the
Well,
presenter.
the topic, not the talent, huh?
I was going to be like, keep it in the middle, but yeah, I do think the topic is hot as well.
And you shared your full site editing a local blueprint in that session as well, right, Carrie?
Mm-hmm.
If you check out Carrie's blog, she has a link to a zip file that you can click and drag into the software local that will automatically load a full site editing instance of WordPress there in local for you to play around with. Check it out on Carrie's blog. So if you haven't tried FSE, that's a great way to do it. But those that were willing to celebrate, we have Anita, Lee, Jonathan Jeter, Nawai, Rob Stinson, Jonathan Jeter twice. Wow, double emoji. Nawai was able to watch them live. He enjoyed the talks. Sally will have to catch it on the recordings. Ryan Kinstra is giving his props there. And then, I also gave you a little sunshine, Carrie and Anita and Rob. So that kind of
Appreciate
rounded.
that.
Yep. That really rounded us up there. And for those kind of following along with Shapers meetings, we generally have a little bit of a pattern. We have like a series of questions that non-technical Shapers can answer, a series of questions that talk about like what we're doing to help the community get better. And this next question was really falling under that community umbrella. But if you saw the first episode of the Genesis Community Livecast reboot, episode 1, the livecast had been dormant for a while. We kind of rebooted it. But the very first episode was around the contributions by the Black community to WordPress and also the challenges that community still faces. And at the end of that episode, Anita Carter, one of the Genesis Shapers, Sandy Jackson, and then Mike Little, who is the co-creator of WordPress, if you weren't familiar, we kind of ended that with a bit of a notion around talk is cheap, action is what changes things. Like, what are you going to do? This really resonated with me personally. I met internally with some folks at WP Engine, particularly Tarsha McCormick, our leader, vice president of diversity and inclusion. And what we ended up doing was reaching out to Jill Binder of Diverse in Tech. And Jill runs a course that helps to train people on public speaking skills, how to get your pitch accepted, how to, here, let me actually share my screen. This might make a little bit more sense, but how to get expected for your speaking propositions or proposals at events. And what we did was we partnered up with Diverse in Tech, and Tarsha McCormick and Jill Binder will actually be providing a workshop specifically designed to increase the number of Black speakers in the WordPress community and at WordPress events. This course is free for anyone who identifies as Black or African American, and will take place in June. There's an application on this form if you'd like to apply, or if you know someone you'd like to share this with who might apply. And really the question to the Shapers was, kind of following up on that, but also, asking those folks if they would share that with others. We're nearly to our goal of 50 students for that workshop. So really excited to see that progress. It looks like Sally had already promoted it. I know Anita had. Looks like Ryan Murray was saying he doesn't do social. So that was kind of an interesting thread that developed off of that. But yeah, if you do know someone who's interested, or if you yourself would like to participate, please check out that post on the WP Engine blog. There's a link to the form to sign up. Again, hopefully to help us meet our goal to increase the representation from Black people and African Americans at WordPress and at Genesis events. So we're looking forward to supporting that as a whole, and really appreciate the support from the Shapers who are able to do that. Next question on the list is, recently a Genesis community member asked how he could remove layouts and sections from Genesis blocks. And then I wrote here, there is a way to do that, but what reasons might you want to remove layouts or sections from Genesis blocks? Before I show the way how to do that, I'm just curious, Carrie, I know you spent quite a bit of time with Genesis blocks. What are some reasons you could think of why people might want to hide some of those layouts and sections?
Would you mind doing a screen share so anybody that's not familiar could see like what the layouts and collections are?
Oh yeah,
If
absolutely.
you have anything spun
You don't
up,
want to describe this visual thing?
I could describe.
Okay, and here's local, by the way, that I was mentioning earlier. So I'll just go ahead and pop into the back end of WordPress on this instance, so I can. Oh, I did it too fast. I always do it too fast. It's got to set up the database first. There it is. Okay,
There you
great.
go.
So we'll go to build a page, and then go ahead and keep talking.
I actually agreed with what Nwai was saying, that if you are a theme developer and you're offering your own, say, layouts or collections to match your theme that are duplicates of what's provided organic or that's already there, you might want to remove the duplicate to replace it with your customized version for your theme.
So the one that's provided, you would want to modify it so it looks like the rest of the site. Pardon me, the rest of the theme, if you would.
Yes.
And he's taking these core layouts and collections and restyling them for that context, and essentially creating a duplicate version of it. And so hiding the original version is the ask here. Like, how do I hide that? Because I don't need it. And this use case is around making sure they all match the design of the site that you're building, and you don't have to go in further to customize the colors and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. And not to get too far ahead in the conversation, that's not the most terribly efficient way to have to go about things, to remove what's there and replace it with what you do. And global styles, which are coming down the pipeline with Gutenberg, would hopefully be a way to set all those theme styles up front in your global styles, and then have those cascade down to the native collections or layouts that are provided with Genesis blocks. But that's still in the future at this point.
I have to say, I'm pretty plugged into all things Genesis, as you can imagine, but I was actually shocked in that meeting with McAllister. Was like, oh yeah, we're working on a global style system right now for all this. Yeah. So that way, sorry, Remkus, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, that was a pleasant surprise as well.
Yeah, super helpful, obviously, for keeping that design consistency. You may have seen the collections in Genesis blocks at some point. This is, if you look at the layout selector, all of these designs are kind of unique and different, with the exception of these, which are actually part of a collection. But if you look up here, like the button colors are different, the layouts are different, and it's really there to provide flexibility. And the user can go in, and you can also do this as a developer with the CSS, and you can mod these styles. I mean, that's fundamentally what Nwai was doing. Or you can also go in and create a custom collection. Now, anyone can create a collection, but when you create the collection, it can just be the elements that are included with the collection that either you're using. So you might think of this as like a themes demo content, like all chopped up and ready to use on any page. But then if you wanted to, like you say, you're building a site for like someone who's not very technical and can't deal with all this choice, or maybe you just don't want it polluting your views, you can actually access this article, developer.wpengine.com/genesis-blocks/layouts-block, and it will detail how you can suppress layouts and sections that you're not using within the site that you're building. Go ahead and stop sharing since we shared the visuals already. Anything you'd add to that, Carrie or Nwai? I'm sorry, Remkus.
Because we look so alike, yeah.
I met you at the same time, didn't I? Wasn't it? It was you, David,
you did,
and Nwai.
Yeah.
I have the photo from that night.
Yeah, those were good times.
Well, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
No, I think the so especially considering from the I built a pre-built theme, so it's a different story if you're just building from scratch and you're designing your theme as you go along. But if you're distributing a theme, like a premium theme, I can fully see that you want to have full control of all the elements because people are going to have questions, right? I added this layout and now it's out of whack. Why is that? Or look, I've got square buttons everywhere. Why am I seeing a rounded button here? What's happening? All those little things essentially help reduce support questions. It also makes your end product much more consistent with how you thought about it. So yeah, I think it's especially giving the later comment by Mike saying we're working on global styles. I'm like, yeah, that's the missing component, because you can then use, I'm assuming you define your global styles, and whatever pattern or layout, whatever that you're using, will then use that as a base. And then I guess the only thing that is you might want to change is the image, which I'm sure there's a solution for at some point, but essentially you get everything on brand. I like that. I think that that greatly helps people understanding the flexibility that Gutenberg offers them. I still think we're a couple of years in now. I still think the vast majority of people have no idea the power that they have in the default WordPress editor.
Yeah, I feel like people are just now waking up to that. We see more people using the block editor in the production version of their sites over time, but it's still very early days. And I think a lot of this, even things like this global styles issue, which seems obvious on its face, are just now kind of coming into play in a lot of these contexts.
Yeah.
Would you, like, I know you built sites, maybe even still do, for like clients. Would you think you would favor like only giving them access to blocks, layouts, and sections that match the style, or would you kind of give them the smorgasbord of things to choose from?
I think it depends on who the end client is, really. So if it's an end client that really needs all the flexibility, and there's plenty of those who know how to behave themselves, so to speak, I'm more than happy to provide them with all the building blocks that they actually need. But if it's a client that really doesn't understand quite well what they're doing, but they need this and some variation, then then limit. But and it also depends on the type of person. If you can, like you alluded to, if you can handle a lot of options, why not give it to them? But there's also a lot of people who just get like, so many options, make it stop. Just tell me what to do, and there's like 3 things I need to click, and just that's my selection. I'm done. I don't want to do anything more. And those two groups kind of overlap in the same area. But yeah, I think having that control is crucial in making sure that the way you as a developer intended it to do actually ends up being that. And we've all seen the days before Gutenberg, where if you needed a fancy solution, people installed entire page builders for just one specific layout. And once they had that in, everything, I've seen people having 3 page builders installed to solve one thing. And I'm like,
that seems a little bloated.
I would go a little firmer on that. That's incredibly bloated. But it all stems from people just wanting to have a thing fixed. So the more we can do that from a central type of implementation, Gutenberg, with all its options now, with the layouts and the collections and everything that Genesis blocks adds to that, the more you can formalize on that, standardize on that, on being as native as possible, the better it's going to be. You're going to service both crowds, the one that want all the flexibility and the ones that just go like, just give me what I need and that's it, I'm done.
All right, love those thoughts. I think they kind of mirror Sally Getch's thoughts here, where she says, on one hand, the website is the clients. They should be able to make decisions. And that was really interesting, because like the way Nawai was thinking about it was like completely torching it for the non-technical user, where they couldn't invoke it again without code or his help or the team's help.
Yeah.
But she says, on the other hand, they are buying a theme, and she's talking about theme purchasers right now for premium themes. They want a certain look and are not designers. Too many different styles might confuse them. Carrie, I'm going to go with you on this one. Do you agree, disagree? Like, is too much choice confusing, particularly for non-technical users?
Well, the old WordPress saying, decisions, not options, to help narrow, it's easier to choose between 3 things than it is between 12 things. So to some extent, helping narrow down is helpful. I do think, though, how that's implemented in Genesis blocks would be interesting, because what you wouldn't want, for instance, is for Genesis blocks to behave, from a user's perspective, behave differently on one site from another. So maybe there's a settings panel, I don't know, just off the top of my head, a settings panel where you can enable the default Genesis layouts, or you can enable the theme specific layouts, so that a theme developer doesn't have the ability to fundamentally make Genesis blocks look different from what the plugin actually is. I don't know if that made sense or not.
Yeah, I think thinking about it, like basically like knowing what you're working with, being able to turn off the customization so you can have the base state, but then apply customizations based on the use case you're building. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense. I'll have to provide this recording to McAllister if he's not watching live, as he works on those global styles. Looks like Sally was definitely in favor of the global styles. That was a popular one. Again, that was a bit of a surprise for me in that meeting. So I'll get more info from Mike on what they have cooking. We'll talk about some of that in a future live cast, and with the shapers, of course. And just on the blog, so folks can kind of have a view. But we'll give Mike his space to do his research nerd thing where he gets like super deep on it. All right, on to the next question. We had some great questions from the audience about compiling CSS and JavaScript with Genesis custom blocks during DECODE. The question is, how does everyone here, how do the shapers typically build their template assets for themes and blocks? Is there anything you would like us to be thinking about along these lines as we improve the plugin? All anyone talked about was post CSS. Remkus, I don't know if this is a topic that's of interest to you or something you feel strongly about, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I also I seconded Ryan's mention of post CSS. I think there's more than just that. I think the question is easier to answer when we're specifically talking about a theme.
Why?
Well, because the theme, you are in full control, and this particular plugin I am not. So if we're talking about how to compile it, I think the question behind is, why would you need to do that? And that's an optimization of the stuff that you actually load in the front end. So be as relevant and be as minimal as possible on every single excuse me, on every single view that your site has. So that's the end goal. Post CSS helps you in cleaning up a lot of stuff. And it's just easier when that's done by integrating it in a theme.
Why, for those unfamiliar, could you explain what post CSS, the stuff that it helps to minimize?
So post CSS, and I'm just going to Google it so I'll give a better answer. But it's essentially a tool that transforms your CSS and JavaScript into making it it essentially helps you optimize your CSS in the best way you can, right? So that's not just making sure that you're using the right CSS, but it's also in the direction of if you have specific stuff that needs a browser prefix for a specific browser, you define one and it just automatically fills in the rest. It does pretty much any magic that you wanted to do on compiling from Sass. It's just a full-blown, how do I do my CSS? So the end rendering, the compiling of the actual CSS that you need, how do I do that in the most optimal way? It takes a lot of the headaches away from you and just You obviously need to configure it, but once you've done that, it's just smooth sailing.
Is there a competitor to Post CSS? Why is it the only option that any shapers voted on or thought was a good idea? I don't know if you know. It's okay if you don't.
I think a competitor could be CodeKit, for instance.
Okay.
Or SAS.
Or just plain SAS.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts, Carrie?
I didn't chime in on this one. I haven't actually used Post CSS.
Would you like to Google
Excuse me 1 second while I Google the answer.
It's hard when you get those summaries, like something you use all the time and someone's like, explain it to me. And you're like,
Right.
Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Yeah.
Remkus was saying, you write all these styles for specific blocks or specific layouts, or maybe there's JavaScript that supports that. And when you look at any particular page, you don't want you only want what you need for that page. Otherwise, you're just increasing page load time. And Post CSS is a tool that can help you strip out what's excess. That's
right.
The nutshell.
Thank you for that. It's really interesting when we get these questions ready for the meeting. We're thinking about like how long each one will take to answer, how many we should ask, and things like that. And like the great thing about one answer questions is exactly what people want. But then it just cuts down the time, which maybe isn't a bad thing because you get out of the meeting early. But this one was a really quick one. I think, what are we at here? Let me see here. Oh, it's like a 4-minute gap between like me asking the question and just ending it because like everybody said the same thing. That's really funny. All right, on to our next question. If you've been paying attention to what Google's been up to, this is probably on your mind. But what are you doing about Core Web Vitals scores with Google's upcoming algorithm update in May? And I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a minute. But what areas do you think WordPress Genesis product should change in order to address this? And then the question, should WordPress or Genesis change because of Core Web Vitals and the algorithm update on the Google search side? This is a meaty topic, and the responses were very detailed and opinionated here. I'm going to share my screen for a second just to show you I'm not making all this up. This is Search Engine Journal, which does a really good job of updating what's happening. But the Core Web Vitals really consist primarily of these 3 KPI, and there's ranges that Google finds acceptable or not acceptable, if you will. And we'll be using that within the search signals within their algorithm. This article does kind of show you the ranges for like largest contentful paint, like what's good, needs improvement, or bad. The same for first input delay and cumulative layout shift. And the question to the shapers was, what should change? Should we be reacting to this from Google? And so I guess I'll just start we'll start with Carrie this time. Carrie, what should these changes, should people be following what Google does? Let me just ask you that question to start.
Yes.
Why?
But not in a panicky way, because it creates a better user experience. One of the most annoying things is when you go to a website, and this is more true on mobile or touch devices, but when you go to click on a link, and before you can click on the link, the layout is shifted, and all of a sudden you're clicking on the wrong thing. So I think what Google's trying to do is ultimately create a better user experience, which is a good thing. But in terms of being panicky about, how these Core Web Vitals are going to impact rankings, I think Google's telling us now, but I think it's maybe supposed to be another 2022 before they actually start rolling out some of these changes.
So Google's has their view of Core Web Vitals and what you should get on each. These tests are largely conducted in lab environments and data centers and aren't necessarily a true reflection of how customers experience a page. And there's other ways to make your site faster or more enjoyable than the ways Google defines. I'm just curious from either of you, why should people do it Google's way?
Well, because everybody wants that better spot.
Yeah, I think that's a That's most likely the highest motivator for most people. I don't think it's the most accurate one to achieve. I think it still works the old-fashioned way, where if you're providing better content and a more enjoyable site in which the content is wrapped, people will enjoy your site literally, and that will in turn make them to click to the next page on your site, and that's a big indicator. But I do think what Google is doing here is, so they're pushing, and I'm generally not a big fan of them pushing. I don't like their push for AMP too much.
AMP magically solves your core web vitals scores, by the
Yeah,
way,
and it doesn't. So,
ironically.
It does solve certain things. I disagree that that's the way it should go. This particular push, I do enjoy that they're really going for it. Why? Because it forces people to think differently about what their website is about. So yes, the content is still the most important thing. Yes, the general enjoyability of your site is still the most important thing there is. But then how do you quantify the general enjoyment of your site? So the content layout shift is a great example of how annoying that is, especially on mobile. But it happens on desktop just the same. And as well as the first meaningful content, like when does that actually become a metric that you can visually see the difference of? So having optimized quite a few sites in the last couple of months and literally working with how does this page, how can I create a better version of this? What is loading too much? What is impacting it? And if you just go by the metrics, you will end up with less kilobytes to download, most definitely less megabytes, but most oftentimes even the kilobytes optimization is there. So you have a page that is smaller, which is always the goal. If you then, whatever your assets you're loading, you're doing the proper way, you're lazy loading, you're making sure that not everything is loaded all at once, especially for pages like your team page where everybody has their avatar. But if you start going down every single page on a site that matters, like I want this to be as snappy as possible. So great hosting is where it starts, but you then have to, you can have a terrible website on great hosting. So this is fixing that. I think that's the focus that everybody who is creating content should also be aware of. So if you're adding all this extra stuff, what does it actually do? And if you're loading 15, 16 JavaScript files just because you want to have a date picker, I don't know, is that the smartest thing to do?
This is kind of getting to the root of it for me, I think. And just to be clear on my own opinion, I'm with Carrie. I think that regardless of what I think of all the other parts, the sites that I manage and participate in, search results are important. And, with this being a factor in the algo starting in May, thus makes it important to sites that I like to be successful. DavidVogelpohl.com, I'm not worried about because I don't monetize it and don't care what happens there. I think I'm pretty good on ranking for the term David Vogelpohl in Google on that one, even with a bad CWV. But like this to me really gets back to the root of performance optimization and site optimization in general, as I think about it as the balance between suffering and joy. The joy of adding new experiences to your site, but the suffering that introduces in terms of page size, wait times, and visitor experience. Yeah. But the things you add themselves are visitor experience. So the part that makes me a little weird is when some third party comes in and says, well, no, you can't do this. You need to chop off all these parts. Anything more than this, I think, is a bad web page. But my observation is that web page might be doing the exact job it's supposed to do for the people who are there to enjoy it, and that a minimalist page might not even be the right choice for the visitor in context.
So I don't think I think there's a misinterpretation there on what the end goal is. The end goal is not supposed to be everybody has a minimalist website. That's absolutely not an end result of optimizing for core web vitals. A lot of people mistake it for that because essentially that's what AMP does, right? It just reduces everything. And it's just a slimmed down version of what your site is. You can have a very media-rich site with like a photography site, like one of the worst things that you can have with in terms of bandwidth. So the only thing that still should be of concern of you is limiting the bandwidth. But if you're just looking at what the goal is and what type of sites, what they could look like in order to have that goal met, that can be a very, very rich site with a lot of stuff going on. I don't think that's the limit that there is. I know plenty of sites that just do so much and yet are highly optimized and are snappy, are fast, and load. I'm looking for the nice words to use here. But load a boatload of stuff on screen, and yet perfect scores. It is possible. It just requires you think a little bit differently. It does, in no way should it influence the quality or the richness of the site itself.
All right, that's a really good point of view. Really important point to underscore. By the way, Remkus, we can bleep out words. Who is our bleeped word person again, Carrie? Who do we bleep a word on?
Oh, who was that?
Oh, Nick the Geek.
Oh, yes. I was like, I remember what the bleep
Nick,
was. I don't remember who said it.
Yeah. We'll have to bleep out Remkus's word boat so people think he says something else, but
that's perfectly fine. It's not my first nor my second language. Every now and then I'm just caught up in whatever words come easy.
How many languages do you speak, Remkus?
Comfortably 4.5, 5-ish.
All right, polylang, I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll get back to the Genesis stuff here, but that's good to know. Bill Erickson, he had an interesting comment. He says, we found the biggest cause of CLS shifts in our themes has been the use of Google fonts. And he goes into more of the specifics there. During when this thread was happening, and then even after, we actually audited the Studio Press themes, particularly the ones we make, not necessarily the third-party ones. Genesis sample has a CLS shifting issue that's actually being updated as this is being recorded. By the time you see this, it might even be live. And then we're going to make our way through the next top 10 themes now. But Genesis framework itself has no issues. It really, if you have issues with Core Web Vitals, it's most likely cumulative layout shift relative to the theme. And it would be code in your theme, if you will, that would be creating that, negative score there, or failing score, if you will. Carrie, I don't know about on your side. Have you done much digging on Core Web Vitals and which themes you're using that are working or not working well for that?
I'm just kind of starting to, and I was doing it less because of Core Web Vitals and more just running like page insights and seeing where optimizations could happen. I do want to do a quick corrections corner. I've said 2022 for Core Web Vitals being a ranking factor, and you said May, and I believe it is May when they're rolling out.
Yes, it's May and everyone's freaking out. Oh my goodness. I like your point. Like, calm down. It's fine. You're not going to tank tomorrow when this launches, but I think it's important. It's really interesting as you think about the algo. Matt, what's his name? I was going to say Mullenweg. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking.
There's so many Matt M's.
Yeah, the famous Matt around Google and SEO. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on his.
Matt Cutts.
Yeah, Matt Cutts. He had given some insights into this in the past, particularly around page load time. And he talked about it more like a tiebreaker, where it was like, if both sites, all SEO factors were equal, this would help you break the tie. Google helped to break the tie. And he in that video commented that happens on like 1 in 1,000 searches, which is actually a hell of a lot of searches when you think about it. From Google.
We've actually seen results already.
From Core Web Vitals or page load time?
From Core Web Vitals improved and ranking improved.
Like organic ranking, the site got a better ranking, and all you did was improve the Core Web Vitals.
No, not all. But it's one of those things. But most definitely that was a key element.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. I know with SEO, it's oftentimes challenging to understand what changes had what effects, but that's good to see you getting those results early on.
I would say for now, it's mostly the highly competitive stuff. And my suspicion is that on May, this becomes the thing for everybody to enjoy.
Do you know if the Google results and do you feel like the algorithm updates for Google come quicker or slower in the Netherlands? I don't know if you have any insights on that.
So for as far as I know, it's not specifically slower for Dutch. I think the algorithm configuration is, as far as I know, is a global one with local spices for specific areas.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't keep up with
To the best of my knowledge,
news.
I'm not a full expert.
It's funny here in Austin, we're like the demo city for all kinds of stuff. So we always get the weird search results and Netflix experiences and stuff like that. Carrie, any other comments on Core Web Vitals?
I think stay tuned. Do what you can to optimize, but don't freak out about it because content is still king.
I like it. I like it. I like it. People read websites, not search engines. People spend money on websites. Search engines spend zero money on websites. They do drive some money to websites though, so it's kind of important. All right. Well, that was it for the agenda. The rest of the shapers were definitely kind of looking towards Core Web Vitals. We'll be producing a blog post soon on the Studio Press blog that details our advice on how you should take care of it with some more specifics. Carrie Dils helping us out with that. Thank you, Carrie, for joining us here today.
You betcha. Thanks for having me again.
And Remkus, thank you as well.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. If you'd like to learn more about what Carrie is up to, please visit carriedils.com with one L for Dils. And if you'd like to check out what Remkus is up to, go to ServeBolt and check out everything he's doing there. Thanks everyone for listening. Please stay tuned for future episodes of the Genesis Community Livecast. Again, this has been your host, David Vogelpohl. I am a proud member of the Genesis community and been that way for over 8 years. I lead the Genesis efforts at WP Engine, and I love helping the Genesis community with my friends from the Shapers.